Have you ever been 100% sure you were right, and then turn out to be dead wrong? Don't worry, we've all been there. The funny thing is, the less we actually know about something, the more confident we tend to feel. One day in 2001, a man decided to prove his own ridiculous theory about escaping from bees. He believed that if he covered himself in honey, it would make him invisible to the bees because they would think he was one of them. So, armed with a jar of honey, he went out to a local park and intentionally disturbed a massive beehive. What happened next was predictable chaos. The bees swarmed him almost instantly, stinging him repeatedly while he screamed and ran in circles. Onlookers rushed to help, and paramedics were called to the scene. Despite being covered in painful welts, the man kept insisting, "But I used the honey." And here is his logic. Since bees are attracted to honey, he assumed they wouldn't attack what they considered their own food source. Even as he was being treated by paramedics, he stubbornly clung to his belief and argued that maybe he didn't use enough honey or didn't spread it evenly. This absurd incident went viral on social media, catching the attention of behavioral psychologists who studied the case. They were intrigued by his misplaced confidence in such a flawed idea, which they linked to a cognitive bias where individuals greatly overestimate their understanding of complex systems. This honey-coated fiasco became a laughable yet illuminating example of how overconfidence can lead to spectacular failures. To investigate this phenomenon further, researchers decided to study a group of aspiring chefs in a culinary academy. They tested the students in several categories: knife skills, plating presentation, and their ability to identify flavors blindfolded. After completing the tests, the students were asked to estimate their overall performance and rank themselves compared to their peers. What the researchers discovered was both amusing and revealing. Those who scored the lowest in these culinary tasks consistently overestimated their abilities, and not just by a small margin, but significantly. For example, one student who couldn't tell salt from sugar during the flavor test confidently claimed they had the best palate in the class. Another, who presented a dish with burnt edges and uneven plating, insisted their artistic presentation deserved top marks. These findings highlighted how individuals with the least skill or knowledge often lack the awareness to recognize their own deficiencies, a hallmark of the Dunning-Kruger Effect. They thought they had scored above average, while their score was one of the lowest. So not only were those students incompetent or less skilled in those areas, but they obviously didn't even know just how bad they were at them. Students who scored the highest had more accurate perceptions of their abilities, but they made a different mistake. Paradoxically, the highest scoring students underestimated their performance. They knew they were better than average at the test, but because it was easy for them, they assumed it was easy for everyone. They didn't know that their ability was at the top percentile. Today, this phenomenon is known as the Dunning-Kruger Effect. Essentially, low-ability people do not possess the skills needed to recognize their own incompetence or lack of knowledge. Their poor self-awareness leads them to overestimate their own capabilities. You can clearly see what I mean in this graph here. Having barely any skill or knowledge leads to massive confidence. However, when you become more knowledgeable about a certain topic, that confidence falls. Only when you start to reach above average skill is when your confidence about a certain topic starts to pick up again. Contrary to popular belief, this is not just limited to cognitive tasks. It doesn't seem to matter what specific skill we pick, the less a person knows about any given activity, the more likely they are to overestimate their skill or knowledge. The Dunning-Kruger Effect can often be seen in talent shows like American Idol. During the auditions, the stage is filled with a mix of talented singers and those who are, frankly, not very good. What's striking is that the ones who lack talent are often unaware of just how bad they are. That's why they seem genuinely shocked and disappointed when the judges reject them. This phenomenon reveals an uncomfortable truth. We're not very good at evaluating ourselves accurately. In fact, most people believe they're better than average. For example, 88% of people think they're better drivers than the majority, even though that's mathematically impossible. Astonishingly, even elderly drivers rank themselves among the best on the road. Another fascinating statistic shows that 94% of professors consider themselves better than their colleagues. These judgments create a paradox that blatantly defies the laws of math. So, why does this happen? Why does having less skill make someone more confident in their abilities? The answer lies in a lack of self-awareness. When people don't have enough knowledge or experience, they also lack the ability to recognize what they don't know. This creates a false sense of confidence that can only be corrected as they gain more experience and understanding. I'm going to help you visualize how this happens. Let me help you visualize how this happens. This is Mike. Mike is an amateur photographer. This box represents how much Mike knows about photography. And this other box represents how big he thinks the entire field of photography is. Based on his perspective, Mike believes he's already in the top percentile of all photographers. Now let's introduce a professional photographer, Ronnie, someone who has been practicing photography for 7 years. This professional knows significantly more about photography than Mike. The professional's knowledge fills a much larger box. However, unlike Mike, the professional also understands that the field of photography is vast and that there's still much more to learn. This awareness is represented by the gray area outside the professional's box of knowledge. Here's the key difference. Mike doesn't even know this gray area exists. He's unaware of how much he doesn't know. Because of this, Mike assumes that he already knows 90% of what there is to know about photography. Meanwhile, the professional, despite knowing far more than Mike, is conscious of the larger scope of the field. This awareness leads the professional to estimate that they know about 70% of photography. Now, here's where it gets even more interesting. If the professional met someone like Mike, they might underestimate their own expertise. Why? Because Mike's confidence can be misleading. To the professional, Mike's assuredness might suggest a deeper knowledge than he actually has. As a result, the professional might mistakenly believe that Mike's self-assessed 90% surpasses their own 70%. This dynamic illustrates why amateurs often overestimate their abilities and why experts sometimes underestimate themselves. It's a fascinating interplay of confidence and awareness, and it perfectly encapsulates the Dunning-Kruger effect. We are all susceptible to the Dunning-Kruger effect. But how can we stop ourselves from falling into its trap? The answer lies in a simple yet powerful approach. Strive to educate yourself as much as possible. You're not expected to know everything. No one is. But thinking you're always right? That's a clear sign of ignorance. Here's the irony. The more knowledge people gain, the more they realize how little they truly know. In other words, diving deeper into a subject often reveals just how vast, complex, and unexplored it really is. It uncovers countless questions we don't yet have answers to. It's a fascinating paradox. The more we learn, the less we feel we know. On the other hand, people who only scratch the surface of a topic remain blissfully unaware of how much they're missing. They're trapped in the illusion of expertise, unaware of the massive gaps in their understanding. In the original Dunning-Kruger experiment, unskilled students who initially overestimated their abilities showed remarkable improvement after receiving even minimal guidance. Why? Because a little tutoring helped them see what they didn't know, and that realization was powerful. This teaches us an important lesson. Having someone more experienced guide, you can shine a light on your blind spots. So, the next time you feel overly confident in your expertise, pause and take a closer look. Could it be that you're falling victim to the Dunning-Kruger effect? You might not even know what you don't know. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel for more content to help you become just a little bit wiser. Thanks for watching.